very, very special edition of Inside AWAI. I'm Katie Yakel, and I'm thrilled to be here with Mindy McHorse. Hi, Mindy.
Hi, how are you?
Some of you may know Mindy as the editor of the Barefoot Writer. Others may know you as one of our speakers and presenters and participants at boot camp. Others may know her just from her terrific copy. Others may know her from her presence in our social media sites. All of these together, you get all of those Mindys today, which is great. And we're going to see another side of her as well, too, which is very near and dear to her heart. So I'm going to let Mindy tell us a little bit more about that. We have Jade Trueblood. Hi, Jade.
Hi, Katie. Hi, Mindy.
Hello.
Jade is the mastermind behind these, and she will be involved in the Q&A and along with the rest of the team. So we're all here for you. We're going to go off camera in just a minute, and then we'll pop back on at the end and answer any questions that you have. And, I said this is near and dear to Mindy's heart. I'm so glad that we're able to have this conversation today because, these are really heavy times for our world in just so many ways. And there's so many things that are actually out of our control. It can be scary. It can be hard to know what to do, especially when it comes to your writing business. So that's why our message with this presentation is to focus on the things that you can control. And as a copywriter, you are just in the unique position of being able to help others, help businesses in a way that others can't. And it's a great way to stay connected, to participate. So that's what we're going to be diving into now. So Mindy, let's just jump in, and I'll see you guys at the end. Thanks, everybody.
All right, fantastic. Thank you so much, Katie, for that lovely intro. And hello to everybody joining us. Thank you so much for being here and listening. I think a lot of you know we'll have time for questions at the end. So I look forward to hearing your feedback and your thoughts on this. But right now, let's dive into how to improve the world and make a great living doing it. It's kind of a win-win approach to copywriting. So today we'll cover why cause marketing is different, why it's really in demand, and not to mention that, but just growing in demand. How to recognize campaigns when you see them. More importantly, how to write for cause campaigns, and then taking your first steps to getting started as a cause writer. So like Katie just said, I've been in the copywriting world for a while now, loving every bit of it. I started writing copy back in 2007 and went from blogging to working on this program, Copywriting for a Cause, which I co-authored with my sister, Megan Tyson King. And now I love every day that I get to work on the Barefoot Writer magazine. I'd like to give a special shout out to all of our Barefoot Writer members listening today. And these days, my joy is really in helping new and up and coming writers achieve their dreams of freedom in paid writing. So if your hope is to do that through cause marketing, this is a great place to be. Now let's talk about what is cause marketing. Right away, it involves some kind of marketing effort and a good cause, right? Basically, the two are connected. But more specifically, cause marketing represents for-profit companies because that's where that marketing effort comes from, right? And then nonprofits are the place where you will see a good cause or kind actions or better hopes for our world. That's where those are concentrated. Nonprofits, charitable organizations, 501c3s. Cause marketing is really a union between the two. Now, it's known by a lot of names besides cause marketing. We've got cause branding, corporate citizenship, community relations, corporate philanthropy, global citizenship. It's a pretty long list. So it's known by a lot of names, but they all represent the merging of three things. Companies that want a positive ROI, nonprofits that really need exposure and funding, because that's what nonprofits struggle the most with, and social causes that deserve our attention and they need us to take action on them. So cause marketing is really just an umbrella term for all of those other socially responsible marketing concepts that you see up there on the screen. So what we're really talking about here today is a partnership. It's a threefold partnership. You've got the social causes that deserve the attention and action, the companies that want the ROI, the nonprofits that need the exposure and funding. And it's a partnership of aligned interests. I do want to say, usually it's between one nonprofit and for-profit organization, but there are different formulas that can go into that, and we'll cover that in just a minute. But it is, once again, it's the ultimate codependent, mutually beneficial partnership. And I like this picture here because this really kind of represents what we're talking about. So you see that buffalo, it's probably enjoying some kind of feast. She's got starlings perched on the back, on her back. Those starlings are helping to clean the buffalo of ticks and fleas, and they're getting a free feast basically, but the buffalo loves it because it's getting cleaned. And when you think about it, this is such a great example, because what do companies want and what do they need to do good business? They need a great reputation. They need good moral standing in the world. And what do nonprofits need? And what do they want? They need resources, access, and money. And so they can get that from each other. This is the mutually beneficial partnership aspect of cause marketing. Now, none of this is new, really. It might feel new if you're looking at it from a copywriting point of view, but cause marketing has really been around for ages. So you'll probably recognize this example. This is one of the best known cause campaigns. It was called Yoplait Save Lids to Save Lives. It ran from 1999 to 2016. And it's probably one of America's best known breast cancer campaigns. A lot of you might remember that if you bought those Yoplait yogurt cartons with the special pink lids, then you could mail them in. Each lid brought in 10 cents to support the Susan G. Komen for the Cure company. And over time, that effort alone raised more than $26 million for Susan G. Komen for the Cure. And it was General Mills, Yoplait's parent, that contributed over $50 million. And that was throughout 15 years of its sponsorship. And it helped rebrand the company as a socially minded place of business and gave a lot of necessary funding to that cause. Here's another classic. This one I remember from when I was a kid. I remember collecting those Campbell's soup labels because there was a big cause campaign called Campbell's Labels for Education. This actually started way back in 1974 and concluded in 2016. It had a 42-year run. And during this time, what you would do, you'd take those Campbell's soup labels that were specially marked, and then you would send them in, and Campbell's company would provide money for different education nonprofits. And over the course of this campaign, they provided over $110 million in school supplies. And this was spread across tens of thousands of schools, all because of this campaign. Here's another one that I think is such a great example. This started in 1996. This is where Lee Jeans launched a program where companies allowed their employees to wear jeans to the office, and it was called Lee Denim Day. So if you made a $5 donation, and this again was to the Susan G. Komen Breast Cancer Foundation, then then you would get to wear jeans to the office. I'm only laughing just because as a copywriter, as many of you know, that's one of the incentives is we get to wear jeans to the office every day. And, you know, if that, I'm usually in yoga pants. And in fact, this program really kind of started to wane because now wearing jeans to the office is no longer such a treat. It's more like everyday behavior. So that program was quietly shut down. So these campaigns show us that partnerships may come and go, but there's always one constant within any cause marketing campaign, and that is for a campaign to support a well-defined cause. Now, that cause can be really in any form. It can be any type of mission, any type of hope for a better world, any need that's out there. Any cause is valid. Any cause goes. So next I want to talk about the 10 most common types of cause campaigns and all the things that can vary with that. But first, let's just give a few minutes to the structure itself. So some of you may be drinking that right now. I'm already on my second cup. The most basic campaign is what I call a black coffee campaign, hence the picture. So black coffee cause campaigns are really the most traditional, direct kind of cause marketing campaign. So that's what we've really been talking about so far. This is where you've got a partnership between a for-profit and a nonprofit. The very first example was actually a partnership between Marriott Corporation and the March of Dimes. So Marriott had just built this huge family entertainment complex. This was back in 1976. They called it Marriott's Great America. It was in Santa Clara, California. And then the March of Dimes, which a lot of you know is a nonprofit that works to help prevent birth defects in babies with medical screening. They needed to increase their funding. So the two partnered together. They had these pledge walks. They co-branded it. And what happened is Marriott got hundreds of thousands of dollars in free publicity. That translated to over 2 million people coming to their new family entertainment complex in just the first year. And the March of Dimes got $2.5 million in donation, which was a 40% bump from what they had brought in the previous year. So that worked great back in the 70s, right? Which was also a time when any restaurant that served coffee just served coffee, right? That looks pretty familiar. Maybe you'd add a little cream and sugar. But think about coffee houses now. This is what you're more likely to see. You go to any coffee house and there are 18 variations of the coffee you can order. You know, you've got blended or iced or fair trade, or maybe it's a fancy double espresso caramel salted macchiato, which I think might be what we have on the screen right there. So like coffee, I bring this up to show you that cause campaigns have also evolved. So these Black coffee campaigns that were made up of one for-profit and one nonprofit have just exponentially increased their reach and the approach that they take. So now you could have a for-profit that launches a cause campaign, but maybe they work with a government organization, or maybe it's a company partnering with its own internal foundation. You could have a single company with multiple causes and multiple nonprofit partners, or a nonprofit with multiple for-profit partners, or even a company that promotes a really good cause and doesn't even have an official partner, but they have something they really believe in, like let's see, a good example would be just doing good on Earth Day. So next I want to talk about why companies and nonprofits want these partnerships. It actually goes a little bit deeper than just wanting a good reputation and money. So both sides expect a benefit, of course, but those benefits can really vary. And most cause campaigns, they combine the resources of both branches to get something good done. So like we've talked about, a nonprofit gets that free media attention and access to a marketing budget. The company gets public approval. But the ways it goes deeper are, for the company, it can mean more sales. It can bring the better reputation that we've talked about, more brand recognition. And here's where it starts to really get interesting. It can change their entire corporate culture. It can help their employees with morale. It can boost retention. It can even impress shareholders. For the nonprofits, beyond just the money, I mean, of course, they'll get more donations. Their reputation could increase, especially if they have a really great cause partner. There's higher public awareness for their cause itself. They get that additional funding. They have a more comprehensive reach. And on top of that, they have continued existence, because if you think about it, a lot of nonprofits, they have the best mission at heart, but they don't, many of them don't last over the long haul. So as a copywriter, I want you to look at these lists. These are the things that you can offer your clients. These are the benefits that cause marketing publicity brings them. And more specifically, let's talk about the 10 most common types of cause campaigns, because the next question your clients would have is, okay, I'm going to have all these benefits, but how do I go about this? So there's the donation with purchase, a donation with coupon redemption. We're about to go into all of these. Donation with online activation, the proud supporter, buy one, give one, volunteerism rally, consumer directed donation, consumer pledge drives, dual incentive approach, and a request for consumer action. And this list is not comprehensive. These are just the most common. So let's talk about what a donation with purchase means. This one is probably by far the most common out of all of those 10. This consists usually of a promotion that triggers a donation for specific items, and usually there's a funding cap and a set time period. So for instance, you might see a sign that says, for a limited time, if you buy this, we'll donate X amount to this charity. So Target's Meals for Mind campaign did this. This was where if you bought certain, I believe it was Kraft and P&G products, then it triggered a donation. And over time, Target would donate 5% of the total sales of those specific products to Meals for Minds, which is a charity that helps feed undernourished school kids. That was a very successful one. The donation with coupon redemption is where a consumer is required to complete an action following a purchase, and then that triggers a donation. So that's what happened when we saw that Yoplay's Save Lids to Save Lives campaign. That's where you had to mail in those yogurt lids. Now, the modern version of the Campbell Soup Labels program is basically box tops for education. So a lot of these will be on different cardboard packagings like cereals and Kleenexes. And what you do, I just did this for my kids' school over this past year, you clip the little box top, you take it to your school, and then they turn it in and they get money for it. Although this program is also growing. Now you can actually just scan your receipt with a mobile app, and then your school can earn. So they're making it easier for consumers. Easier and more accessible is always the goal. Donation with online activation. This is a lot like the coupon one we just talked about, but instead you go online to enter a code at a designated website. So Dawn's Dish Soap has had a program to help save wildlife. This has been going on for 40 years, where they partner with the Marine Mammal Center. And if you buy a product from Dawn, usually this dish soap, which is used in helping clean up wildlife from horrible oil spills, then you can look on the back of that dish soap container and there's a code, and you enter that code online, and then Dawn donates a certain amount of money for every time somebody enters that code. Let's see, there's the proud supporter approach. This is where you see copy on a product or a website that says we're the proud supporter of this or that. And so that means a company donates to a specific cause. So for the most part, this is really more corporate philanthropy because donations aren't necessarily tied to that partnership, but because it's stated publicly, you can consider it cause marketing. So I have this example up here. I'm not sure if you can make out the copy, but this is a small business in LA called Mom's Mala. They sell chili sauce and they publicly support their local food bank. So it talks about how they have been donating to their food bank on a regular basis. There is the buy one, give one campaign approach. This is also known as the BOGO method, where a company makes a donation or takes an action that's comparable to what they've asked a consumer to do. So the Tom's Shoes product, Tom's Shoes 1 for 1 is the name of the campaign, and Tom's Shoes is the product. Some of you may have bought Tom's Shoes before. It's one of the best examples here and one of the longest running BOGO programs. This is where for every pair of shoes a customer buys, Tom's goes and donates a pair of shoes to impoverished children. And they have great pictures on their website that shows all these kids excited about their brand new shoes. You know, they probably never had shoes in their lives in some cases. It's a really beautiful program. Number 6, there's a volunteerism rally approach. This happens when a company encourages consumers to volunteer their time for a good cause, and then in exchange, the company provides a benefit. And it might be in the form of free goods or services. So Disney, that lower right screenshot, Disney did this in 2010. They had a really cool rally where they inspired over 1 million people to volunteer for a day in their communities. And in exchange, the company offered a free Disney theme park ticket, which is a pretty big deal, being that those tickets run over $100 per person these days. And then up at the top, that's a little screenshot from Bank of America where they take a somewhat different approach. They give their employees paid time off to volunteer in their communities. And so they then track and tally those hours, and they boasted over 2 million volunteer hours for their employees just last year. There is the consumer-directed donation campaign. This is where consumers are given the flexibility to nominate and vote for the nonprofits that they want a company to give donations to. And in some cases, the initial nominations come from a predetermined list. So Subaru Share the Love does this, the Share the Love event. It's been going on, it's been going on for several years, at least over a decade. It's held annually through, I think it's from November to the end of the calendar year. And it probably is the company's largest, most public collaborative charitable effort. So what that means is for the last 90 days or so of the year, Subaru tells customers who come in to buy a new vehicle that they will donate $250 to a charity of the customer's choice. And then I believe they give the customer a list of 5 to choose from. Those are the predetermined charities. And this happens at the 632 different participating Subaru locations. And last March, they announced that their program had, in the ending months of 2019, they raised over $30 million for these charities. which is exciting. You know, Amazon does a similar thing. A lot of you who shop on Amazon have probably seen their Smile Amazon program, where a certain percentage of every purchase you make on Amazon can go to a charity of your choice. And if you haven't seen it and you shop on Amazon, I definitely recommend you look into it, because you don't have to do anything. You automatically are donating every time you buy, and you just have to take a few minutes to pick the charity that you want those donations to go to. So moving on, number 8, there are consumer pledge drives. So this happens when companies encourage consumers to pledge support for a nonprofit partner or a specific social issue. And then in return, the company will pledge either a donation or some type of incentive. And this is actually kind of a new approach to the old-fashioned telethon. That's where companies would match pledges given by the public. And so right here I have an example from Groupon, you know, the coupon website that got us all to start going crazy with coupons when it first came out. They began a pledge drive with DonorsChoose.org to recruit consumer pledges, and this was towards school funding. So essentially, when consumers donated funds, a third partner, in this case it was a place called the Pershing Square Foundation, would match every donation made. And now they've got a new one going on where you can donate $15 to helpwater.org, and that provides safe drinking water to people in the developing world. And then an anonymous donor will supplement each pledge with a $10 donation up to a max of $20,000. That's a pretty great one. Then there's the dual incentive approach. This happens when a company offers consumers an incentive that effectively drives donations. So in some cases it's a discount, or it might be a coupon or a donation match, or there could be some other bonus. So for example, this big warm-up here that I have on the screen, this was from Land's End, the coat manufacturer. They partnered with the National Coalition for the Homeless, and they, for several years running, they prompted the donation of over 33,000 winter coats. So people were invited to donate their gently used coats at Land's End, shops across the country, and then in exchange, Land's End would give them a coupon for 20% off the purchase of a new coat. So it was a win-win. Actually, probably a triple win. You know, a win for the people receiving the coats, a win for the company making more money, and a win for the consumer, because they're not only donating, but they're getting money off of their new purchase. Another example is 31 Gifts. That's what you can see kind of in the top right. This is the 6th year that a place called 31 Gifts and World Vision partnered. So 31 Gifts is an online retailer that sells purses and totes, and they've got some home decor. They match your Giving Tuesday gift with a product match. So any donation you make on Giving Tuesday, which for this last year it was December 3rd in 2019, 31 Gifts would match up to $1 million in product to help communities around the world with items that help support new moms and deliver medical supplies and keep girls in school. Let's see. And then finally, for the top 10 most popular, there's the request for consumer action. So in this type of promotion, there's no purchase required. Instead, a company offers to make a donation when a consumer takes a specific action. So in this case, this was something that happened with a smaller store up in Western Washington, Bartell Drugs, when it was time for kids to go back to school a year ago. Oh, kind of bittersweet to think about. That company ramped up their efforts to give those school kids the tools they needed. So throughout August, they asked their customers to donate cash or supplies at the check stand, or make a text to give donation, and then those proceeds went to provide supplies like notebooks and paper and pen to kids that needed that for school. So that kind of gives you a little idea of what these campaigns can look like. Okay, so let's pivot now and talk about why this is a terrific specialty for any copywriter, especially right now. For starters, your skills are really in demand by both companies and nonprofits. So for businesses, cause marketing increases the profits, boosts the image, builds the ongoing consumer, employee, and stakeholder loyalty. And for nonprofits, it differentiates their cause from the crowd of competitors, boosts their resources and donations, elevates their goals to a global level sometimes. So this goes back to the benefits that you would provide to both of them. But it starts with first asking the question, where does the copywriter actually fit into this? So there are these benefits. There are these benefits. We know they need you. But the answer really is everywhere. You fit into every piece of the puzzle of every cause campaign. So good copywriting is really a critical element for any cause campaign, because any of those campaigns, like the ones we just talked about, must be transparent or consumers will be skeptical, right? And this is like any type of good copywriting. You have to show proof. You have to support your claims. You can't just say, hey, buy this because it's the best product in the world. Nobody's going to take you up on that. Same thing with a cause campaign. How do we really know that this company stands behind this charitable cause? Or how do we know that this nonprofit is really going to do what they say they'll do with your money or your donation? So you need to make these campaigns transparent in order to get buy-in. You have to include disclosures that communicate timeframes and funding caps and deadlines, and this is what makes things more believable, right? You don't want a cause campaign that says, buy this today and we'll donate $1 to a charity, but then there are no other details, because that makes you as a customer wonder, okay, but for how long? Is this just good for a week? Are you going to donate a total of 100? Will it go for a whole year? Are you going to hit a max of 1 million? Those are the kinds of things that provide specificity to campaigns that can help to convert buyers. Let's see, anytime an extra step is required, directions have to be really clear and easy to follow. Just like that campaign we talked about where Dawn dish soap required you to go online and enter a code, that could be really confusing if you're not exactly sure how to find the website, what to do once you get to the website, which part of which code on the back of that product you're supposed to enter. So you need great copy to be very clear about those directions. And then the purpose of the campaign needs to be clear throughout the copy, right? Why is this particular company supporting this particular cause? Sometimes a company might support a cause because it's really tied to their brand, like the Athleta women's gear has supported a lot of charitable initiatives for teenage girls and young girls, helping to get them in school and helping to get them college scholarships, because that's tied to the brand, right? They have women's clothing. They want to support women. It doesn't necessarily have to be tied to a brand, though. It could also be because maybe the CEO of a company had somebody in their family who got sick with cancer, and so a particular company is really focused on helping the American Cancer Society because they have that very personal mission. So whatever the reason is behind the campaign, that's where the copywriter needs to come in and make that clear. You need to articulate that. Smart marketing is absolutely essential throughout every cause campaign, and you need every element that you would have in a regular marketing campaign, right? Everything from opt-in boxes to what it takes to build a subscriber list. You need e-letter updates. You need clear time frames. You need to be clear about price points and deadlines. And then the benefits need to be played up times 2. So you're not just writing about how great a product is and how much a person will benefit if they buy this product or this service, but you're also writing about the cause, right? What are the benefits for supporting this cause? Maybe if the cause is something tied to the environment, that's where you would really delve into the fact that this will give you a better world to live in. It'll give your kids a better world to live in. And that only happens when you buy this product, which will also enhance your life. But it needs to be genuine. So you need to be able to write about benefits in a very genuine way. You need to be able to support all your credibility claims for both the for-profit and nonprofit partners. You need to spotlight that, right? Because you don't want a consumer to ever have any doubt that if they make this donation or they take this action or they buy this product, you don't want them to doubt that a company is going to make good on their promise to actually move that money into a nonprofit's account. For instance, there was a company I was shopping at online a while back. It was a clothing retailer, and after I made my purchase, they had a window that popped up that said they donated a portion of all of their sales annually to, I don't remember which charity it was, but it was a charity. I think it was related to animals. But that was it. That was it. I couldn't find any information on the website about why they were tied to this charity, what they were doing, how much, whether there was a time limit. There was nothing there. And so that's a good segue into this next one. You need proof, right? You need proof in the form of long-term results and success stories. So earlier when I was talking about some of those longer running campaigns like Campbell's Soup Labels and You'll Play Save Lids to Save Lives, they've got proof on their website. They show this is how much money we brought in every year. This is what we did with it. These are the case studies that show you how it took place and how it really helped us and it helped the cause. You need proof, and that's what copywriters are great at doing. And you need engagement, right? It's essential if you're talking about a consumer-driven campaign, and this is where the more modern form of the cause marketing campaign starts to show up. This is where you can have social media, videos, blogs, regular email communications. That's where you want to stay on top of the connection you've made with a prospect or a buyer, because you want them to stay engaged with this cause, especially if you want them to keep coming back for more, right? And become either an evangelist for your brand or an evangelist for the cause. Number 10, you also want to build a sense of community in a lot of these campaigns. You want to build a sense of, we are doing this together. We have this mission. We share this fight. You can do that through forums and Facebook groups and different invitations to interact. And again, this is where a copywriter's talents can be very key. And it's not as simple as just asking for money, because you want to continually thank consumers for their loyalty and partnership, right? Same thing is true in any type of company. Anytime somebody is asked to make a sale, you don't just say, hey, buy this because I want you to and I need the money. You want to show them that what they're doing is making a difference. And then also, again, just being clear the whole way through. You need a clear call to action so that every single time somebody is confronted with this cause campaign, they know exactly what step will trigger the campaign to grow and build. So really, what this kind of separates, what makes this a little bit different from regular copywriting, regular for-profit copywriting, is that you're writing to both a buyer and a donor. So if you're talking about writing fundraising copy, right, then you're writing to a donor. If you're talking about writing just general marketing copy, you're talking to a prospect and you want to convert them to a buyer. But really, when making any kind of sales appeal for a cause marketing campaign, you're trying to connect on the two levels. And this is what really separates cause writing from any other type of copywriting. So you're trying to connect with the prospect on an emotional level, on a logical level. You also want to identify the key benefits about your product and your cause, and you want to present them in really just the most attractive way possible. You have to address any shortcomings. You have to make it as transparent as possible, and you have to connect with your prospect emotionally and then answer his or her logical questions, right? Because really, your goal in the end is to leave your prospect absolutely thrilled with her decision to buy and even proud of herself for having made that decision. Now, in cause marketing, this is especially true because she'll end up with a product that meets her needs, while at the same time, she's contributing to a cause that resonates with her value. So you're going for that type of happy win with your prospects. Now let's talk about what I call the moral approach to cause writing. So this is how you really build credibility for a cause campaign. You want to develop your USP, your unique selling proposition, like any good copywriting campaign would require. But an easy way to do that, because cause campaigns are slightly different, is to use the moral approach. So what that includes is, first, it starts with your members. Who are the members of the cause marketing partnership? Who's even involved? Who's the for-profit partner? Who's the nonprofit partner? What's the cause? The offer is basically, how are you bringing this campaign to light? What is the cause-related offer? What's the action being requested? What's the amount of the donation being pledged? Then there's the recipient who receives the donation. Do funds go straight to a nonprofit organization, or do funds go straight to the people who benefit from the action, like the kids who got the shoes from the Tom's campaign? How is the money really used to support the cause that the organization represents? Total transparency right there is what you want. You want to talk about the amount. This is where we bring up the funding caps, or the what the partners are willing to do and give. A lot of campaigns will have a maximum, up to 100,000, up to 1 million. And then the length. You want to address how long this campaign will last. And even if it's something that a company wants to do indefinitely, it's good to put a time limit on it so that maybe it happens every year, but for just 3 months of the year. And that way they can really ramp up efforts and excitement instead of just kind of having it ongoing, because then it's not typically as effective. So taking what you know now, let's talk about how you might get started in cause writing. So when it comes to you as the copywriter, this is a really great specialty because there's a lot of work available. You know, after today, and maybe you've already started looking, anytime you go to a website or you're at a store or you're looking at a cereal box at home, you're going to start noticing that different companies support different causes and are tied to different partners. So there's really a lot out there because with all of those different campaigns going on, a lot of them, like any business who needs good copywriting, a lot of them need or could benefit from some better communication materials. Also, it's really easy to write for causes you feel passionate about. If you are absolutely devoted to animals and animal missions and saving animals and feeding animals, and then you partner, you start writing for a cause campaign where one of the partners is like the Humane Society, how easy would it be to just write about that because you already feel that deep passion inside? And then it's very satisfying. You get to drive the big sales, especially if this is an ongoing campaign. You have the promise of ongoing work. It's really a great way to upsell any of your current niche clients who either may not have cause campaigns or maybe they have copy on their website saying, I support this charity, but there's nothing else. So if you want to expand your reach with those clients, you can bring these ideas up. And right now, there's really not a lot of competition. What we're seeing is that these cause campaigns are just growing exponentially. And I would actually say in the last 4 or 5 months since the pandemic really took hold of our world, along with the push for social justice, probably more companies than ever have gotten on board with some kind of charitable action, charitable company just because they want to step up, and maybe they've been quiet before, even though they were quietly supporting other nonprofits with donations, but they just never happened to tell their buyers about it. But now they're putting that front and center and saying, look, we stand for this. We believe in this. Here's what we're doing as a company. Here's how we want to stand up and show you what we're made of. And you get to enjoy all the benefits of the freelancer's lifestyle, right? You're still writing from home as a copywriter, taking on the projects you love and feel passionate about, working in your jeans or your shorts. Let's see. It's also, it's easy to write for causes you feel passionate about. And this is ongoing. So if you have multiple campaigns that address the same need, it's kind of like specializing in a niche, right? You still have that same connection to something that you enjoy. Plus you get double the winners, because you're driving those sales and you're promoting an important cause. And right now, so this is really interesting. The cause-focused world is really booming. I don't have statistics about all of the new campaigns that have come out in the last couple of months. Those are still very, very young, and we have yet to see results and long-term effects. But if you look at some statistics about the millennial generation, this is so interesting. 94% of millennials right now think that cause marketing is an acceptable way for a company to promote itself, right? So they don't take the cynical view that, you're just trying to make me like you. They believe that these companies stand behind their missions. And really, more than half have intentionally purchased a cause service or product in the past year because it was linked to something cause-related. 73% say that they are more willing to try a product or service that they've never heard of as long as it's tied to a good cause. And more than a quarter would actually pay, this is huge, they would pay more for something associated with a good cause. And 87% consider a company's cause commitments when deciding where to apply for work, which is fascinating, right? And millennials, they really make up our future of consumers, right? And our current consumers. Their beliefs and buying habits are what are going to sway the marketing tactics of many businesses over the next several years. So this really is a great specialty for any copywriter. We talked about upselling your current niche clients. You don't need to jump into a new niche to apply your skills as a cause marketing specialist. If you just tell your current clients that you offer the service, you could grab their interest. And we talked about there not being a lot of competition. There really aren't a lot of cause marketing specialists out there. So you could be among the first to easily help companies get involved in this. And, you still get all the benefits of the writer's life. Right. Well, I just want to reiterate how great that is. Let's talk about your next steps, right? So first, I want to encourage you to start a cause marketing swipe file. For those of you who don't know, a swipe file is something that basically just gives you examples of what's being done right, what can help you learn. So anytime you see cause copy, so if you see a company, whether it's on their website or in an email blast or on a product that you buy at the store or even on signage at a store, when you see that they are linked to a specific cause or a purpose or a company, take a look at it. How are they explaining this to their customers? What are they addressing? How specific are they? Are they directing you to a new website? Are they asking you to sign up for something? You want to start taking pictures and screenshots of everything that you see, and then you use that swipe file to refer to so that you have examples to build on. So as you go forward, fully immerse yourself in the world of cause marketing. Kind of take a look at places that jump out at you because of their cause marketing, and then also take a look at places that don't have anything and think about how you might feel differently about that company if they did say that they were tied to a cause. Let's see, I also recommend subscribing to at least 4 e-newsletters that are related to cause campaigns. You want to subscribe from both directions, either from the corporation and then also from the nonprofits. In some cases, they will have separate e-lists, and you can see how they are doing that differently. You want to look at social media, right? You want to see how they're communicating their cause with pictures and proof and numbers. Facebook is a really huge one for this, because when you hear about an online cause marketing campaign, chances are excellent they'll have a Facebook page. So you want to sign up for this, keep up with their updates. Twitter is the same thing. You can search for people who post updates on Twitter about cause marketing. You can follow their accounts and follow the different organizations involved in cause marketing. LinkedIn is a great one. If you search for cause marketing networking groups and you sign up for the ones that really capture your interest, those are the ones that really resonate with you. And then also on any of those, if you search for the keyword #cause or #cause marketing, then you're going to find a lot of extra information. And you can also combine that with whatever cause it is you are passionate about. So that might be environment, or it might be homeless people. It can be whatever it is that helps you really get excited. You also want to look and listen. Just look around and listen. See what really resonates with you, see what gets you excited, and see what makes you want to write for a certain campaign.
Okay, are we ready for questions?
Great, thanks. Mindy, that was awesome. Thank you so much. I learned so much, and I just got inspired. That's what talking about this does.
You know, I was just going to say, I think the hardest thing about working in the cause marketing world is that it's very emotional. You get very tied to your writing, and then you just want to do so much, and you only have so many minutes in the day, so you have to limit yourself. But it's that kind of passion that can really drive you and just fill your days with something that matters. And I think that's really important.
It's wonderful. So Jade, what questions do
we ready? Okay. So there was a little bit of confusion about exactly who you're working for. Are you working for like Lee Jean Company, or are you working for the American Cancer Society, or both? Where is the bigger opportunity?
That is such a great question. And there is no clear-cut answer, unfortunately, because it could be either. It could be that you approach a nonprofit and they say, hey, we partnered with this company, but our website doesn't really mention it, so could you help us? Or it could be that you write for a company and they say, oh, by the way, we've been donating to this cause. Can you mention something about that in your future emails? So that could easily happen. If you are starting from scratch and you don't already have existing clients, I recommend approaching a company, approach the for-profit side, because they do have the resources to pay what copywriters are worth, right? Nonprofits don't always necessarily have those resources. So because you are still running a writing business, you are still trying to put food on your own table, you absolutely can and should ask for the appropriate fees for your copywriting work. But if you do it through the corporate end, you're more likely to get those fees, and then I think they're more likely to invest in you in terms of retainers and things like that. That's not to say that a nonprofit won't, but your chances are just better if you take the corporate angle.
Okay. And then, so, in our world, we talk about grant writing sometimes. So Debbie had a question if grant writing fits into course marketing or it's completely separate.
I think I would classify it as more separate. I think that there are more specifics to grant writing that you're not really addressing with a cause partnership or a cause campaign. And I know AWAI has a program for grant writing. I don't actually know much about that program itself. So,
right. But with grant writing, your target, the person you're writing to, is either the government or a foundation or whoever controls the money that you're hoping to get. So it's a totally different mindset and format and sensibility, basically. With this cause marketing, you're writing basically to people. You're writing not as opposed to corporations or foundations. So that's one big difference, but I say they're apples and oranges.
That's a good distinction, though. Okay, so this is a big question, and I have a feeling it's going to take over your head, Katie.
Okay.
And I think it might be more related to business setup versus what a copywriter would do, but maybe you know the answer to this, Mindy. So it's from Balaka. She's promoting her client's water conservation outreach program that has books and games. It's a company, not a nonprofit, which you spoke to. She's doing a Kickstarter to fundraise for it, but needs year-round support, just like Tom Shoes or corporations would do to match any sort of crowdfunding. I don't know if you know what this means, but it's not a 501c3. And she's starting to feel overwhelmed. Do you have any help for how they would set that up or how they would structure, looking for funds? Or is that the job of the copywriter?
It's not the job of the copywriter.
No. That goes out of the scope.
Don't let me. Don't feel copywriters don't feel like you have to set up all the legal parts and how the money, all that stuff. Your job is just to write the copy. It's up to the company to figure out all those really, really important logistics. But Mindy, I'm sorry, you probably have something.
Well, I completely agree with the way you just phrased it, because you absolutely can get into matching partners and creating partnerships and ironing out the details, but that goes beyond the scope of copywriting. So if that's something that's in your prior business background or something you want to explore, go for it. I think I liken it to what we often say in the copywriting world, that when you start copywriting and you want to make a great living, go to the companies that are already using copywriters and putting out good copy, because they value what copywriting is. They know what it can do for them. They know what it can do for their business. And then you're not constantly trying to make the argument, but wait, you need good copy, and this is why. No, actually copywriters should charge this fee, and you're not constantly having to justify yourself. So if you go to a company that has an existing cause partnership, then it's kind of the same thing. You can say, I see what you have set up. This is great. Here's how we can strengthen it with this type of copy. If you go to a company that doesn't have a partnership, or if you're coming from a nonprofit angle trying to look for partners, that's just a whole new layer of things to do. And I don't personally know much about it. I think maybe one approach is to talk to other nonprofits and companies that already have those types of partnerships, see what they did, or just spend your first year or two writing for existing campaigns. And then by all means, expand your services into matching up different causes with different companies. But I think that's different from your copywriting.
Yeah. I feel like as soon as there's numbers, letters, brackets, it means lawyer. It's like copywriter out, lawyer in. So Katie, Miranda had a question about free resources. I know we have a ton of them on our site. I don't know if you want to speak to how you can look for them or find them within AWAI.
Sure. Well, I would start with just the catalog of these Inside AWAIs that we've done. We've been doing them for years now. I think we have over 50 or 60 on business building, on getting started, on finding clients, on roadmaps. These in-depth conversations are so beneficial and so helpful, and you get to meet great people like Mindy and other people that are doing it and have been where you are right now. So I always recommend people start by looking. You go to our website and just type in Inside AWAI. search bar, and it'll bring you to the page, and you'll just see this long list. I mean, you could do one a day for, months. So that's a great place to start. Then there's our article archive. I mean, we have thousands and thousands of articles from any expert you can really imagine, that get written for you guys, written with you guys in mind. So another fantastic resource for you that's available to you. Then there's, our Facebook groups, all of our social platforms, great resources to participate, to get to know people, to connect. So, those are the top places. But, once you get into our website can be a little overwhelming, and we're always trying to work on that. That's always a struggle. But once you get in there and start kind of digging around, you're going to find even more than I'm even talking about right now.
That's awesome. So I don't think I've ever been a webinar, and this question hasn't come up. So for Mindy, does this work for B2B as well as B2C?
Ooh, that's a really interesting question. I don't know that I have ever been asked that. I don't know the answer, I'll be honest. I have never heard of a B2B partnership that is used as leverage for attracting other business buying customers. That doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It's definitely in the minority. Although, I think that if you're talking about human behavior, and this is true for B2B writers, yes, they're writing for business buyers, but they're still at the core trying to address those things that we all want to know. We want to be able to trust the person or the company that we're buying from. We want to be able to know that they stand behind their product. And so if a B2B company does have something philanthropic on their page or cause related, I think it could only help. I just can't personally think of any examples.
And this one is going to go back to your slides. David was asking if you could differentiate between your bullet 1 and 4.
Let's see. Let me pull that up.
Mindy, while you're doing that, I just want to jump in because Alicia's saying, can writers start with cause marketing before completing the accelerated program? My answer to that is always start with the accelerated program. It's your foundation. I just can't stress that enough. Cause marketing, while you could, you're just going to give yourself more of an advantage. It does kind of start the conversation assuming that you already have those basic copywriting skills. So anyway, so just wanted to jump in. I always feel compelled to answer that question.
Yes, and I'm absolutely right. That's what I support too. To answer that question you just brought up, Jade, if I understood right, when I think this was when I talked about the top campaigns, the top 10 approaches, and the first one was a donation purchase. The fourth one is the proud supporter. So the interesting thing about these types of cause campaigns, there's a lot of overlap anyway, and a company might try a campaign in one form and then they might tweak it so that it kind of actually fits better into one of these other brackets. So when you're talking about a donation with a purchase, this is very common. This is where you have a promotion that triggers a donation for specific items. This is where there's a funding cap and there's a set time period. But that doesn't necessarily have to represent the entire company, right? So let's say that the company, let's say it's a company that sells women's jewelry, right? But they have a specific type of bracelet that was modeled after somebody from South America who, is working in a village. And if you buy that specific bracelet, then they will match your purchase price with a donation and it will go to that woman's village, right? But they don't necessarily do that for all of their other products. On the other hand, number 4, the proud supporter, that's usually where the entire company, like it's part of the company fabric, stands behind this mission. And that's where, the company gets to decide all the details, but that's where they can tie all of their purchases to a donation. They can trigger a donation with the purchase of anything.
Makes sense.
And it's where they can be a little more public about it because it's not just a specific product.
Yeah. Okay.
Jade, I just want to jump in too. I'm seeing some questions. There is some, and this happens a lot when we talk about cause marketing. There is some confusion between the difference between cause marketing and fundraising. And, fundraising is where a organization is raising funds for their specific organization, where they're just sending out solicitation letters, St. Jude's Hospital, or any of the political campaigns, or any lung cancer, any group that raises money. That's basically fundraising. The thing that's unique about cause marketing is it's the collaboration between a business and a charity, where a specific action helps the charity, and where the corporation, their partner, is participating in the results somehow. They're matching funds, or they're donating their profits. So it's in the same family, but they're different.
Okay.
And Mindy, do you have anything to add to that?
That's exactly the way that I would describe it. I think the one other distinction is that you are more likely to be paid what a copywriter would typically be paid for writing projects if there is a company involved, because there is simply more money involved. So, and
I have to say, we do have quite a few copywriters that just focus on fundraising, and they make great livings. I'm thinking of one woman in particular who's worked for Ronald McDonald House, and like very big name charities, and she's in six figures and all that. That's not always necessarily the case, but it depends on the size of the charity. It depends on the organization. What their budgets are, what their funds are, but big national ones do pay well. A lot of times when people think about fundraising, they do think about their own backyards or smaller organizations in their world, and those obviously do have limited budgets. But again, you're providing a service, a valuable service that has you should be paid for.
Well, this question then goes into the service part of it. So we spoke about the roles that you don't do earlier. Is the copywriter responsible for any of the project activities when it comes to the agencies involved? Do you ever make recommendations?
I would say in general, the answer is no.
Yeah.
You absolutely can be part of it. If you move into that role and you have something to offer, if you have project management skills, or maybe it could be something as simple as you actually worked at a nonprofit in your past business life, and now you've become a copywriter, but you want to connect those dots. There are always this is it's the huge conundrum about copywriting, right? We offer a service, which is writing, which is useful to everybody, necessary for every business that wants to succeed, and yet there are so many other layers to bringing people together and increasing communication and improving programs that even now, having been in the copywriting world for over a decade, I know a lot of friends, fellow AWAI members, who started as copywriters, and now they've moved into companies with other types of projects, right? Maybe they are coordinating different branches of a company now just because they've worked their way up. So you absolutely can. You certainly don't have to. If you come in and you don't want to be part of that coordination aspect, then your job is to basically be the researcher. You talk to the people who do the coordinating. You ask them, what were your results? What did this campaign look like? Did anybody take pictures of that volunteerism day? Show me proof. Show me all. You gather all your research and then you write about it.
Okay, beautiful. So, I hope I'm saying this name right. Keithy has a question. Is there any way to track or monitor growing causes so that copywriters know, where to put their focus and who to go after?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's almost like going with your gut feeling, just in the sense that if you see a company who has an existing campaign, for instance, you want to look to make sure that they're checking all the boxes. Like I mentioned that online retailer that I was buying clothing from that said they support this, but then they had nothing else going. There are two approaches, right? I could have approached them and said, hey, you need some copy about this because I'm actually kind of skeptical that you're really doing anything. Or you could say, oh, they're not really standing behind this. It looks like they just put it up to make themselves look better. Any cause campaign that already has those elements, that has timelines and funding caps and deadlines and details and history and proof, those are the ones that I recommend going for, especially when you're just starting out.
There we go. And so you just answered Alicia's question too, because she was asking who to approach
and
first.
especially if they've already done it once, like if it's an annual campaign, they're going to want to say, hey, last year we raised $100,000. This year our goal is 250. You can get a feel for the energy and momentum just about how it's described. And a lot of times they are public in how they are progressing towards their goal, because that's exciting.
Mm-hmm. Well, and something you just said, Katie, makes me think of one other thing I want to add. If a company doesn't have that proof up and they don't have all those elements that I recommend you look for, it doesn't mean they're not a good prospect. It could mean that they just don't know that they need that. And so the next step to see if they are a good fit is to just give them a call or send them an email saying, hey, I saw you started this cause campaign. I don't really know anything else about it. I'd like to know more. Yeah. If somebody in the company contacts you and says, actually, yeah, we did this and we did this and we did this, and I'm glad you're interested in it, then that's your window to say, okay, well, as a matter of fact, everybody else needs to know about that too. If, on the other hand, you contact them and you say, I saw you started a cause campaign, can you tell me more? And they say, no, then you want to go in a different direction.
Right.
And so there was a question from Florence just about, so if somebody is not interested in making money, they just want to be able to raise awareness for certain, whatever passions they have. Can they use the same principles that are within this course to apply to that as well as marketing?
Sure.
Absolutely.
I mean, you can do it pro bono. You can donate your fee to whatever, but I think it's easier to work for companies that are already doing it than, so find the companies that you care about, that you're passionate about, see what they're doing, and then just jump into their conversation and see how you can participate, as opposed to trying to create this yourself, create the connection, create the cause yourself. While it can be done, that's a little bit of a bigger boulder to move up the hill.
Right. And one thing to add to that is, I think you have to go with what fuels you. It's absolutely great, like Katie said, to donate your time. If you are just starting out, or if it takes a significant amount of time, one thing that I was advised years ago by one of the top copywriters in the fundraising market, she actually said, never work for free. She said, always get at least a letter that says it's a donation in kind. But now that depends on whether you're doing something as part of your business. Then you can get that letter that says you give a donation in kind, or just as a good human, you can absolutely donate your writing and you don't even need that. So it's your call, but the answer is yes, you can take both approaches.
Okay, I am looking to see if there's any other questions that we haven't got to.
This was great, and I love the questions. I love that people are getting it and they're excited about it. And Mindy, so appreciative of your time today. I know this is a passion project for you, but again, it was really wonderful of you to share it with us.
Thank you, Katie. You know what? In looking back at a lot of the different cause campaigns, I have to share with you all just how happy it makes me. So, let's talk just very quickly about the fact that there's a lot going on right now in the world, like Katie said at the beginning, that we can't control. It's very easy to get down in the dumps, and it's very hard to write when you are down in the dumps. As a copywriter, often one of the best ways to improve your writing is to look at good copy, right? Look at good marketing campaigns. So I encourage you, even if you don't necessarily want to go write for cause campaigns, just look around at the cause campaigns and the copy. You're going to be improving your copywriting skills. You're going to be learning about it, but it will also make you feel so good, because it just shows you that there is so much good going on in the world. It may not be at the top of the headlines right now,
right?
But it's there, and if you need that boost while you're sitting in front of your desk trying to improve your copy skills, this is a great way to research the copywriting world.
So
I know Holly's saying she has 2 questions, but I think we should do a last call. So Holly, get your questions in, and then it's the last.
Answer Melissa while we do that. Basically, the age-old question: if a company's already putting out copy, does that mean that they've already got a copywriter and not hiring more, or does that mean that part is saturated? What is your suggestion for Melissa?
So Jade's actually absolutely right when she says this is the age-old question, because it seems counterintuitive. But yes, you should absolutely go after the ones that are already putting out the great copy, because like we said earlier, not only does it mean that they value great copy, but you don't necessarily know what's going on the inside. Maybe they have somebody on their team who's writing that right now who needs to be doing another job. Maybe they want to grow that marketing effort because it's giving them good returns. Maybe you have new ideas for how they can use their existing good copywriting to leverage it in a new way. Mm. But the point is, if there's good copywriting happening already, then you already have a foot in the door, as opposed to going to a company that has not yet demonstrated that they value or understand copywriting. You know, in that case, you're still trying to pry open the door and say, wait, let me in, right?
And I do think that just goes to the idea that's so hard for new writers to really understand, is just the abundance of work that's available. If a company is doing well with cause marketing and they have one copywriter, they're going to need two copywriters soon, because they're just going to need more. And just because you never know, maybe the copywriters moved on, maybe there's 1,000 stories that you don't know, and it doesn't even matter. The point is you just put your best foot forward, offer your services, and see where it takes you. But again, it's so funny. It's like, we have a phrase we use around the office, check the story in your head. The story you're telling yourself might 99% of the time isn't what's really going on, and until you actually dive in and find out. That's the only way of knowing. So don't let stuff like that psych you out.
Yeah, totally. And I see Melissa answered Holly's question, so I think
done.
That was awesome. I mean, Mindy, I haven't been saying, but there's been so much praise coming in amongst all the questions, and just how appreciative everybody is. And so thank you so much for sharing your time. But I'll let you wrap it up, Katie.
I just want to say thank you again. I appreciate everybody. I hope this inspires you. I hope you appreciate the value of what you're learning for these great causes, for any business, for the people in your community, and just how much needed, how valuable these skills are right now. So keep working hard, and we're thrilled to have you with us, and we look forward to see you on next month's Inside AWAI. And be sure to always keep up with Mindy and the Barefoot Writer, the best magazine on the planet. I look for it. That first Friday of every month is such a joy to see these beautiful magazine that you put out so beautifully. So that's all for me.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Katie and Jade.
Bye, Mindy. Thank you.
Bye, guys. Have a great day.